Hello and good morning to all. My name is Carly Schmidt, and today I'm going to be presenting something that I see is the future of healthcare. And thank you so much for this incredible opportunity to present. So, today I'm about to show you something that's going to change the game in Kentucky's healthcare system. It's called the Racial Equity VR Experience and Community Reconciliation Program. And trust me, this is not just your boring average training program. This one combines the immersive power of virtual reality with community reconciliation, all designed to reduce racial bias in healthcare, promote empathy, and ultimately improve health outcomes. So grab your virtual seats because we are about to take a ride into the future of health equity. All right, now let's set the stage. Imagine you're walking into a healthcare setting, whether maybe it's a doctor's office or into a hospital, and then change that perspective and think about walking in the shoes of someone who faces racial discrimination every day. Dealing with the subtle biases, the microaggressions, the unequal treatment. It's very exhausting, right? Well, unfortunately, this is a reality for way too many individuals in Kentucky's healthcare system, and we're here to do something about it. So here is our racial equity VR experience comes in. It's not just another workshop or PowerPoint. It's an immersive VR experience that lets participants live through real-world discrimination scenarios. By doing this, we are aiming to reduce bias, improve cultural awareness, and ultimately create a healthcare system that treats everyone with respect and dignity. So now that we're out of the headspace of those individuals, some of you who don't go through this every day might be thinking, what's the big deal? I don't think this happens. And quite frankly, I don't care to hear about it. Well, let's talk about why this truly does matter. So, I know we can all agree that discrimination is bad, but did you know that it literally affects people's health? Like, yes, racism is a health issue. When people are subjected to constant discrimination, stress hormones like cortisol spike, which over time, this can lead to chronic conditions like hypertension, heart disease, and even diabetes. Conditions that disproportionately affect marginalized communities. So let's take a look at this graph here on this slide, and you can see the stark differences in health outcomes for people in color in Kentucky. Okay, so here on this graph, you are looking at the health disparities between racial groups in Kentucky. So as you can see here on the x-axis, we have different racial populations, and on the y-axis, we have the rates of chronic conditions like hypertension and heart disease. So as you can see, the Black and Latino populations experience much higher rates of these conditions compared to the white population. So this just highlights the impact that racial discrimination and inequitable healthcare are having on the health outcomes of people in Kentucky. The higher prevalence of these diseases among marginalized groups is a clear indicator of the need of this intervention to reduce bias and improve healthcare access and equity. So studies have shown that these issues aren't just hurting the individuals themselves, but they are hurting the families, the communities, and anyone in the overall healthcare system. But we do have a solution, and that solution is VR. So to back this kind of idea, I read an article about exploring the effect of cooperation and reducing implicit racial bias and its relationship with dispositional empathy and political attitudes. And it just showed that VR allows participants to experience racial discrimination firsthand, giving them maybe that wake-up call they need and an opportunity to address their own implicit biases. So think about if we were here to help people feel what it's like, they're more likely to change their behavior based off what they are seeing. So with the idea of using VR, I know some people may be thinking, like, is this something you're making up? Is this science fiction? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely not. There are programs that are already using VR to tackle the racial biases in healthcare. So let's go over a few of those right now. So I'm going to introduce you to the NHS pilot program. It's been done in 2024, and they've said this program has let healthcare workers experience racism through VR. And, well, what are the results? They said it's working amazing. Staff behavior is improving, and they're seeing a more inclusive environment. So, no, this isn't just some sort of idea or made-up thing. It's happening right now, and it's doing great things. Then we move on to a study being done at Creighton University, which is also being done in 2024, and this is focusing on Black maternal health. So they used VR to train healthcare workers, improving their communication with Black pregnant women and reducing biases. As a result, better health outcomes have come for mothers and babies. These programs prove that VR works, and they also face challenges. It's one thing to experience VR, but it's another to sustain the change in this long-term goal that we're having. So that's where we're taking it a step further by adding the reconciliation circles to ensure that the work doesn't just stop after using this simulation. So now let's get into why VR does work so well. And this slideshow is going to be showing you the immersive experience. And now I want you to take a minute and to think this through why I say it. Imagine being dropped into a healthcare setting where you are subjected to racial discrimination. Now, as we talked about before, this is pretty common, so I know this might sound uncomfortable, but that is the point. So, by putting someone in this experience, we can make them truly feel what it is like to be someone that deals with this every time they walk into a setting like this. It's not just about teaching this VR thing, it's about empathy. This VR is a game changer in creating lasting behavioral changes. Like I mentioned before, the article talking about exploring the effects of cooperation and reducing implicit racial bias in its relationship with dispositional empathy and political attitudes is something that kind of shows immersion of the long-lasting effects by reducing these biases. So when you live through these sort of experiences, you gain insight into how discrimination affects people every day and in their everyday lives. And it's the insight that sticks. This isn't just reading an article or watching a video. This is like living it, and that's why VR can be so helpful and why I want to implement this into the healthcare settings. All right, so now for the proposed solution I do have. So this is the exciting part. So what we're looking to do with this program, which our program, again, the Racial Equity VR Experience and Community Reconciliation Program, has 3 things that we want to achieve. 1, being reduce racial bias in healthcare settings. 2, increase empathy and cultural awareness among healthcare professionals and the general public. And 3, sustain long-term changes through the community engagement. So the goal would be to first start with Louisville and Lexington, because these are the 2 cities around here that face significant racial health disparities. So the VR experience will expose these participants to scenarios of racial profiling and discrimination in healthcare. Afterwards, they'll engage in reconciliation circles to reflect and develop actionable strategies for reducing this bias in their own lives and in the healthcare settings. So this will ensure that the program is not just a one-time experience, but part of a long-term shift in attitudes and behavior that we hope to see throughout this healthcare journey in the future. So for the implementation plan, a big question would be, how are we going to make this happen? So we will partner with local healthcare providers, community organizations, and technology companies to bring this program to life. The VR simulations will be designed with the input of local healthcare professionals, ensuring that they reflect the specific challenges faced by Kentucky's healthcare systems. There will also be facilitators that will be trained to lead the reconciliation circles, which will create a safe place for participants to engage in honest conversations and develop real-world strategies to combat racial bias. And that will be the overall goal of how we will get this to be put into the healthcare communities. Lastly, let's move on to what we can expect from this program. So, once again, we do have 3 measurable outcomes, and these are the ones that we are looking for the most, although we are looking for many, but these are just the 3 that stick out to us the most and what we want to end up seeing. So, 1 being increased empathy among healthcare professionals, making them more aware of their bias and more likely to offer equitable care. 2, we have reduced racial bias in healthcare delivery, ensuring that everyone, regardless of their race, receives equal care. And 3, we have stronger community connections with individuals engaging more actively in anti-racist practices. So by fostering these outcomes, we will see improved healthcare interactions and better health outcomes for marginalized communities in Kentucky. Now, of course, no program is without its challenges. We are aware that there are barriers that may be faced, but we do not shy away from these, and we too still plan to overcome this. So one of the biggest barriers we might face is securing the funding. So, however, we do plan to secure government grants, corporate sponsorships, and philanthropic support. Additionally, there may be some people who are skeptical about the VR-based education, but as we've seen in the NHS program and the research being done at Creighton Research, VR has already proven its effectiveness in tackling the racial bias in the healthcare. So we will also work closely with community leaders to build trust and ensure that the program is well perceived by all. When creating programs like these, it is important to not shy away from the countering oppositions that those may have. So some may argue that VR cannot replace real-world experiences. However, before creating this program, many different studies were looked at, some that have already been done and some that are looking to be done. And it just shows that the VR is just as effective, if not more so, at changing behavior. So by immersing these people into these experiences, we can create lasting empathy and drive real change in how healthcare professionals interact with these marginalized populations. To wrap it up, our Racial Equity VR Experience and Community Reconciliation Program offers Kentucky a game-changing opportunity to address racial discrimination in healthcare. By combining immersive VR technology with community-based reconciliation, we aim to create more just, inclusive, and equitable healthcare systems for all Kentuckians. I invite you to support this innovative program, and together we can make a lasting impact on Kentucky's healthcare system and the lives of the marginalized communities. Thank you for your time and your consideration. And last but not least, here are the references supporting today's presentations. These sources provide solid evidence of the effectiveness of VR in reducing racial bias and improving cultural competencies in healthcare. So these were all of the studies used to back up this program, and it is important to mention these. So I want to thank you all for looking at these as well.